Hey everyone, it's me! I want to talk about the flip side of the estrangement when a child opts to estrange from a parent. And I'm going to talk about my own experience and my thoughts because I understand being a child who opted to estrange. And I'm going to delve a little bit deeper into my own experience, into my own childhood, simply because this is not really something I've ever discussed, and it might shed some light on some of the reasonings behind my own estrangement and help other people to understand that sometimes it's for the best interest of a child to go in that direction. So I was raised in a family. There was 4 girls. Dad was a firefighter, mom was a nurse. And in our home, like I explained to my maternal grandmother one time when she asked why I had disconnected from my mother a number of times, I said the way I felt was that our home was 4 walls, but it wasn't filled with what I needed. As a child, or I should say as a child, I didn't remember the hugs and kisses, words of affirmation, things of that nature. And so our home we had our needs met regarding food, a roof over our heads, a good education, Catholic school education where we were safe. And so we had our needs met, but I don't remember either one of our parents saying, "Hey, I love you. Hey, so glad." I don't remember that. And although my siblings might remember something different, that's their story and not mine. But I recall when I was very young, this is a story I'm going to share because this is something it still makes me very, very queasy. I recall there was a movie named Sybil. It was about a girl with multiple personalities. I think Sally Field played that girl in the movie way back when. And I didn't know much about it. I was a kid. I was born in 1970, so I don't remember what year the movie came out. And so you've seen, obviously a severe amount of abuse, or the abuse was portrayed. And I remember my mother saying to me, well, in this one scene, her mother did X, Y, Z to her and described some very vile and graphic sexual abuse. And I still remember to this day how horrifying I felt as a very young child, and why a mother would choose to explain a sort of sexual abuse to a young girl who I'd never experienced any sort of sexual abuse, but why such vile words would be spoken, and the detailed nature of the abuse. It was horrifying, and I will never forget that. And it was just very odd to hear that. It was so disturbing and anxiety ridden for me. I couldn't I couldn't read the book. I one time attempted to read the book to see if what my mother had said was true, possibly, maybe, but I couldn't. And I recall in high school, I was in psychology class. I believe I was a senior. And that part of the movie that had been described to me as a young girl came on, and I literally had to leave the room so I would not see any portion of that in the video. So I'm telling you, I was so deeply affected by that. I don't really... I told my husband recently, and he just thought it was just very odd. So yeah, I'm not just discussing that portion of the exposure, but I just want to say that there's, I have my own reason for my estrangement from my mother. And there's just kind of a lack of trust when my name is brought up in conversations that I'm not a part of, and also the fact that it's been reconfirmed that things that she says about other people are also very vile, whether you're talking about someone and it's true or not. If someone shares their personal experience with you, I don't believe that you should share it with other people. And the fact that that's happened recently, I can't. And it's always within, I feel, a vile nature. And that's just my personal feeling. And so my disconnect has been as a result of me not walking away from a situation or a relationship feeling necessarily good. It's very triggering, in fact. And that's just the way it is for me. Is it something I have to work through? Maybe. But it's something I discuss, bring to light, and the people closest to me know about the situation. So I have a lot of support for my decisions and whom I choose to have relationships with and whom I choose to break free from. And so I was raised in a family where you were obligated to have relationships with everyone. Siblings close, your first cousins, aunts and uncles. You'd go to these family parties and such. And it's just the way it was. You had relationships with people whether you liked it or not. You were around people whether you felt a kinship with them or not, or even if you felt uncomfortable around them because they were adults, you had to respect them and such. And no one ever crossed the line with me and my family. But way back when, because we were raised in an era or during that time, we were raised, a lot of people I know were raised to have relationships with their family and respect their elders and do what they were told. I think that put a lot of people my age at risk for certain types of abuse, and unfortunately sexual abuse, which doesn't emerge until years later. And then the mom and the dad, I'm now the adult, say, I don't want to hear about it. That's not true. Uncle so-and-so wouldn't do that to you, etc. So it put a lot of children at risk. And because it's just because they felt they had to have relationships with people who, even people they lived with. So today, I personally never abused my children, and I don't believe they were abused by anyone else as well. My daughters might have different stories about me, the same way I have stories about my mother. But I can see where, in certain circumstances, and maybe my own, estrangement is not only necessary but justified. Because today I hear people saying, my mom and dad abused me, but I feel because they're my parents, I love them. It's because they're my parents, I respect them. Because they're my parents, I take care of them. And I think that's such an unhealthy way to live, is where we feel that we have to be caretakers for people that didn't take care of us. Because it's so drilled in the heads of people like me that you have to have. Even my grandma, before she passed away, she turned 100 years old a couple of years ago and passed, but up until her dying day, her dying wish was that I would have a relationship with my mom. That's all she ever wanted. And towards the last couple of years, I did have a relationship with my mom, and then it blew up again I mean, my oldest sister and I had a falling out, and I told my mom, can I have a rummage at your house? She said, fine, because it's in a heavily populated area. And so I said, I just don't want to see my oldest sister. And in the middle of my rummage, after I'm done setting up, I don't know, just a couple hours after it started, my oldest sister shows up. And I said, Mom, tell her to leave. And she would not tell her to leave. And the police were called, and it blew up, and I was almost arrested because I literally snapped. And so there's a feeling where you're not safe, and I can't take the risk because I'm in a really good place, and I can't take the risk of my feng shui being thrown off, and I will no longer allow people to make me feel guilty. So if my children or any other children feel that they have to estrange for any reason, they have that right. I don't want to guilt my children into having a relationship with me. I don't. I just don't. I don't want to beg. I don't want to have to buy someone's love. Money can't buy you love. I don't want to do that. So I had to make the decision to release them, accept their decisions as adults, which they have the right to do. And if they feel having a relationship with me is not going to bring them peace, love, joy, etc., that's their right. So although this may be kind of an unpopular decision or discussion or topic for estranged parents, none of us are perfect. And if our children estrange, sometimes they come back and sometimes they don't. But all I have to do now is focus on me, my mental health, emotional, physical. That's why I'm going to the gym now. But also, I have to work on myself. There's a lot that I have to sort out for me, and the work will never end. But for now, I'm in a good place. My head is free and clear of drama and things like that. But that's all I wanted to talk about. So let's not force people to have relationships with us. I just want relationships that are flowing, loving, and kind. And that's all there is to it. So I hope this helps bring insight to someone. I can't speak for anyone else. All I know is that here I am. I'm going to make the best of it and do what I have to do to take care of myself. So that's it. We'll talk with you later. Bye-bye.